High density big city residents. What's the craziest thing you've seen through someone else's windows? I once saw a person in full Spider-Man costume just watching TV in their apartment, mask and all, like all night long. This continued each night for all 3 nights I was in the city. It made me believe that Spider-Man is real, but that he doesn't really have much to do besides watch TV. When I was in college, our dorms were basically high-rise apartments. One night I was looking out the window, contemplating life, when I saw a man and woman having sex in a building across the street, like perfect view of everything. Their bed was directly in front of the window. I called my roommates over and we kinda just watched for a minute. Then we opened our window and started cheering them on. The guy glanced over, grinned and kept going. We were basically watching live porn. Before our firm relocated our offices, we officed in one of the Dallas skyscrapers downtown. During the day, you really can't see through the windows of the other buildings. But at night, we could make out what people were reading on their computers. To a degree, we circulated an office-wide memo warning people to close their blinds at night because we handle some pretty sensitive cases. One night I was working late and go to close my blinds and I look out across the way and I see a dude sitting at his desk, masturbating to bondage porn. I don't judge, to each their own, but yeah, fair warning to all my skyscraper friends, we can see your computers. I used to live in an apartment building in the East Village in New York. I was on the back of the building, which faced 2 other buildings, essentially forming a square behind my building. We used to call this space the shaft. Across the shaft from me there was a girl around my age, at the time, 20 something, who would never wear clothes, and she kept her curtains open all the time. I'd wake up and look out the window facing the shaft and see her cooking an omelette, fully naked. Sometimes before bed she'd do stretches in her room, naked. In the morning she'd get dressed for work with the blinds fully open. I swear I saw her boobs more frequently than my girlfriend's. One night I came back from the bars and looked across the shaft and saw that she wasn't alone. This was weird because despite her nakedness I rarely saw her with anyone else. She didn't have a boyfriend or anything. She was in her room with 3 other people, 2 guys and a girl, and they were all naked too. They weren't having sex or anything, but they were all kind of in a pile on the bed, naked together. I still wonder what her deal was. Was she a nudist or something? In any case, that's the weirdest thing I've seen through someone else's windows. I used to live across the way from a very attractive girl who'd walk around her apartment naked, blinds completely open, big picture window. It was close enough where I felt like there was no way she didn't know people could see her. I would always duck down and peek through my blinds just to be safe. Do the sensible thing. Creeper. When I was a teenager, a friend and I thought it would be hilarious to order pizza to the house across the street and watch the confusion unfold. The confusion was anticlimactic, as you can imagine, but the aftermath was crazy. We could see right into their living room and the dad husband went ducking crazy and started screaming and throwing things and then started actually punching holes in the wall and ripping apart said wall once the hole was started. We didn't do the pizza thing again. Hot naked Asian we called her. Tried not to look, which wasn't too difficult as she was a floor up, but with a raised kitchen and quite tall herself. Then one day I came into my room and my lesbian friend was looking sheepish. I knew exactly what she'd done. She'd been ogling and had gotten caught in the act. HNA shut her blinds from then on. I was staying at my father-in-law's condo during a vacation with my wife. There's this annoying middle-aged guy that loves to talk to anyone who comes down to the pool. So we were at the pool talking to him and he pulls out this big toy gun. We're like, what's that for? And he explained that it shot out salt and he used it to kill flies. That's pretty cool, I admit. We let him shoot it at us to feel how much force it had, and it wasn't much at all. but I imagine those little grains of salt shred bug wings. Anyway, he eventually went back inside and so did we. Then we came back out later in the night to BBQ. He was in his home and walking around naked. Okay, no biggie, just a naked chubby middle-aged guy. Not the worst thing I've seen in my life. What made this situation weird is that he walked up to one of his end tables, played with his penis for a second, then reached down and grabbed the salt gun, and proceeded to shoot himself in the twig and berries with it for like 2 minutes non-stop, then headed back into the parts of the house that weren't visible. TLDR. Neighbor showed us his salt gun fly swatter thing, and then later on that night used it to shoot himself in the balls over and over for roughly 2 minutes straight. Makes sense. You can salt your meat if you want to store it for a long time and not use it. Lived in this one complex growing up, kinda place where we were section 8 housing, but right across the street were high-end apartments and I think condos. I could see into the kitchen of a bit of a foodie. This was 88, 89, so that term didn't exist yet. I was at the time learning to cook myself, so this was like a live cooking show every night. Then there was what I know was a mock turtle soup recipe, but at the time it was like I was watching someone just do obscene things to a few calf heads. Looked over and they were splitting them to get the brains out, nailing tongues to a board and peeling them. Gore all over the kitchen. A naked frat bro with a profusely bleeding nose playing football with a lot of intensity, alone. In Toronto, I rented the top floor of a house. The house behind us was set back from the street, and the houses on either side were almost in front of it, so you could barely see it from the street. They had planted tall bushes and trees so you couldn't see the hidden house, but we could. From our fire escape balcony, we almost never saw who lived there. I was having a dart up on the fire escape one morning, and I see their back door open up and a guy in his early to mid 40s come out in a bathrobe. He lights a dart as well. We give each other a little open palm wave and nod. A minute later, a black woman comes out in a bathrobe, looking to be naked underneath, and she takes a drag off his cigarette. Then another woman, a white woman, comes out, also in a bathrobe, and admonishes the first two for smoking. The guy puts it out and they all go back inside. A couple of months later I noticed the guy, the 2 women and 4 kids at the local park. 2 white kids, 2 mixed ethnicity kids, all around the same age. The dude was living large on the down low. I live in NYC in my first apartment. My guy bedroom window was right up against my neighbor's girl bedroom window. Our windows were 3 feet apart. Neither of us had blinds or curtains. We kinda just lived peacefully, ignoring each other, changing, watching Netflix, listening to music. We were both single, and on more than one occasion, we both had guests over at the same time. We only finally met when we were both moving out on the same day. We got a drink together and laughed about all the shenanigans we had in front of each other. Never learned each other's names. Was the best neighbor I ever had. TLDR, this kid was spinning the hit out of himself. I was smoking on a balcony with some friends when we saw something moving in someone's window. It was someone's living room, and some kid, maybe 4 years old, had his arms out airplane style. He was spinning around the room so goddamn hard he kept popping in and out of view and genuinely lasted longer than anyone expected. I don't know how, but he must have been going for a full 5 minutes, bouncing off his couch every so often. By the end we were cheering him on. The replies in this thread reminded me of a truism I heard once that I think checks out. If you stand naked outside your front door and your neighbors can't see you, that's rural. If you stand naked outside your front door and your neighbors call the cops, that's suburban. If you stand naked outside your front door and your neighbors ignore you, that's urban. I casually watched my neighbor do a line of coke after sorting most of it into easy to sell containers. Don't live in a big city, but this one person in my city has a cardboard cutout of the My Pillow guy in every window of their house. Sort of the reverse for me. My so can't keep her cloths on, and she doesn't care about the blinds. Completely assured no one is looking. Till one day our neighbor's blinds fell down. There he was, penis in hand, red as a beet and staring right at us. Best comment of the day. That one story about the monster turd reminded me of one time I went into a stall at the Lowe's hardware store and stumbled across an attempted murder scene. This poop was 6 inches in length at most, but had an impossible girth. It was big enough to plug the hole most definitely, but it was a beached whale. The only way someone passed this gargantuan log was if they were one of those guys you see in porn thumbnails that sit on giant purple dragon dildos. B. Some poor guy was suffering from a life-threatening case of constipation and his D-Day went down at the hardware store. If that's the case, assuming the man in question's back door was a exit only, he definitely had to make a trip to the emergency room. I lean more towards option A. If it were option B, there would have been signs of a struggle, a blood trail, a final letter to loved ones carved into the stall. There was none. It baffles me to this day. I tell myself it had to be an anal aerobics instructor. Deep down I know that shit would have landed the average man on our operating table. He would have had to be stapled back together. I swear on everything it was a 5-inch diameter, the same as a 2-liter soda bottle.